Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell, and you know what time it is. It is 8 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning, our favorite time of the week. It is time for a Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to sell effectively. Hanging out here with my partner, Mark Hunter. How you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to a great show. We had a good topic. We're going to be talking about the telephone in sales. Ooh.
I feel like we're talking about your favorite subject.
When you're on the telephone a lot too.
I know, but I think about I don't know anybody who's a bigger fan of the phone and still effectively using it than you. So I am excited to hear what you've got to say. All right, let's get started.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
All right, we hinted a little at what we've got on tap for today, but before Mark goes into the details, I always like to tell you how the show works. We start the show off with a question from you, the audience. Why? Because the show is about you. It's about making you more successful at sales. We cover a hot topic, we recommend a book, and because we want you to leave with return on investment, we have a lightning round. So Mark, what's on tap for today?
Well, the topic, like I teased at the beginning, we're going to be talking about the telephone. Hey, is it work? Does it work? How do you make it work? The question comes from Renee in Baton Rouge. She says, I'm new to sales. This is just my second job. I'm excited about this opportunity, bigger territory, more commission, but there's just one problem. My manager is old school. He wants me to use the phone. That makes me uncomfortable. I have never made sales calls. Always used email, in person, or even text. Where do I start? And more importantly, do I have to do this? Okay, so I threw that in the brain because, hey, the Sales Logic brain opened all the mastermind members, came back with a number of things. You're just going to highlight a couple. One, preparation. You got to know who you're calling. Again, this isn't random calling. You know who you're calling because you've developed your perfect market. Other piece is this, hey, start with warm leads. Start with leads of people who have already done some inquiry or something like that. It gets you in the groove. And the last one I'm going to highlight is, hey, make sure you follow up. One call isn't going to be enough because chances are it's not going to go anywhere. Follow up by using email, by using other sources, and repeat the process. Jump in.
You know, Mark, I want to ask you, what do you think, and I'm going to answer this question too. What do you think the most important reason to use the phone is in today's marketplace? Because let's face it, I personally don't talk on the phone that much. I mean, other than I do most of my transactions either face-to-face or via email or text. So why use the phone?
It's because of AI. Whoa, what did he just say? It's because of AI is making everything so automated and so bot central that using the telephone, it's your voice, it's your personality. It's like you and I talk, we're actually having a genuine conversation. Wow, that's shocking.
Yeah. I could not agree more. I think the purpose of the phone. So the very first thing that I would say is let go of treating this like a normal sales call. They may not respond. They may not call you back. They may not any of those things. It doesn't matter. It's still effective to make the call. Number one, when I make the call, I zinged when my competition zagged. Everybody's emailing them. Everybody's texting them. Not everybody is calling them. And when it comes to being competitive in sales, you want to do what's different. The second is when I get on the phone, I make it human. I get to put my energy into it, my enthusiasm into it, and they get to connect with me.
I love that because again, it's just a conversation. I have yet to see a headline where a salesperson has called somebody and they've been shot, they've been maimed, they've lost an arm or something. It just doesn't happen. It's just, you know what? I have, in the words of Michael Jordan, a basketball player. You may not know that sport.
That's right.
Okay.
But he did play for Carolina. So at least
that's right. He did play. That's right. he said, I've lost more games than I've won. Now think about that. I have blown more sales calls than I have had successful ones. But you know what? It's okay. It's just a conversation. No big deal. It is. Hey, I love what Thomas is saying because you're spot on. For me, a CRM system is a huge part of staying organized when making phone calls. You're right. I mean, I have my CRM system open all the time. And when I make that phone call, I log what happened. And here's the whole thing. And I'm going to tell this to Renee. Yeah, you're going to make this phone call, and chances are it's going to go to voicemail. I totally get it. Maybe if we get time, we'll talk about what a good voicemail is. But then you got to follow up with an email. You got to follow up because, again, otherwise you just did follow up with an email and then repeat the process. The telephone does not bite. It's and surprisingly enough, my iPhone is pretty light. I can hold it in one hand. It's not that heavy. People always go, oh, it's too heavy. I can't pick it up. No, you can pick it up. Yeah.
Thomas, I love what you're saying here. I want to talk a little bit more about the CRM and a huge part of staying organized. So typically when I reach out the first time, the very first thing I do is I reach out with a phone call and I follow up with an email to the person, because 99.9% of the time I don't ever get a hold of them on the phone. Very rarely do people answer, depending on the industry that I'm working in. But I love to do it because my CRM helps me track the last couple of contacts I've made. And if I've tried email, I've tried a text, I've tried traditional mail, and they haven't responded, I'll pick up the phone. I just had this happen Thursday. I was working in Dallas, Texas. I got to have dinner with Mark and our friend Mary on Wednesday night. And I was sitting there and I was going through my CRM. And I had a contact that she saw me speak at an event. She really wanted me to come in. She hadn't responded to anything. So I picked up the phone and guess what? I got her right then. And we did all the stuff. I had been sending these elaborate emails. I've been doing all this stuff. None of that worked. And I called, she picked up the phone and I said, is this an okay time to talk? She said, yeah, just shoot. And we just had the conversation right then. So I love the fact that you said the CRM, because I don't want to call people all the time. I don't use the phone every single time I make a contact. That's annoying. I'll kind of balance it, but I can't remember what I did if I don't use my CRM.
That's for sure. You gotta have your CRM system open and be using. Yesterday, I was making calls. I love making calls on Friday afternoons. I'm going to tell you why. Friday afternoons, it's amazing how many people you catch. I was making some calls and I called a person. And she answered, and she says, I don't normally answer the telephone. And I kind of kidded her. Well, because you knew you were going to win $1 million.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the person. And that's what I said. And she joked and she laughed. And we wound up having about a 5-minute phone call. Now, stop and think about that. What was the probability of that happening? Okay, I think the probability of that happening was very good for a couple of reasons. One, I was making enough phone calls. I was bound to hit somebody that was going to pick up the phone. Two, I was calling on a Friday afternoon. You know what's interesting? Friday afternoon's a great time to call because people are a little out of their routine. They're just not quite, it's starting to, they're kind of leaning into the weekend. Yeah. And this person admitted, she said, yeah, it's Friday afternoon. I just picked up the phone. Yeah. And so you got to use opportunities that don't seem normal because most people, you can't call people on Friday afternoons. You can't call people on Monday mornings. False. Every industry has their sweet spot. Every industry. There's a lot of industries that I know that Monday mornings is absolutely ideal to be calling people because people are trying to get their week organized and you can call them and you can reach them. Others, it doesn't work. But don't be afraid to pick up the phone. It's not difficult.
Yeah, I love what Princess is asking here. She says, can you give us specific recommendations or a framework to state our value prop or position statement without sounding too salesy, especially when leaving a voicemail? Princess, I'm going to take a stab at that, and then I want Mark. I'm just going to tell you how I do it. Now, there's a difference between Mark and I, more than a few, but this is a big one. I hate the telephone. I don't like making calls. When I was a kid, my mother used to tell us not to call people, and my sister and I, because we would bother people. And it is rooted in me that when I use the telephone, I am bothering people. So I want people to understand that because I don't know that it ever goes away that you love using the phone. I just want you to understand it's effective and it needs to be done, because not everybody's like me. They don't find the phone a bother, and they'll want to use it. I can't just assume that because it bothers that I think I'm a bother, everybody will. Now, one thing I do, Princess, is I keep my voicemails very short and very tight. And so I don't state a lot of my value proposition. I'll put my value proposition in the follow-up email, but my call goes something like this. It might be like, hey, Princess, this is Meredith Elliott Powell. I know you're busy. Please don't worry about calling me back. I'll follow up with an email. I work with clients just like you, helping them take today's biggest challenges and disruptions and really turning them into competitive advantage. It's incredibly innovative, powerful strategies. But I'll follow up in an email. Thanks so much. So it's really quick like that. I want to get it in really tight because nobody's going to listen to a long voicemail and nobody's going to read one, which is probably what they're going to do.
Hey, I love that approach, and I'm going to share with you. And hey, Princess, got some strategies and ideas for you to help out in the fourth quarter. Go ahead and give me a shout back. Love to catch up with you and share with you. I'm Mark Hunter. Go ahead and call me, 402-598-6194. Thanks, Princess. That's the version of voicemail I leave. Now you see differences there. Both work. I'm going to tell Renee, go back and listen to this again and say what Mare said, and then go ahead and try something what I said. Try them both until you get something that feels comfortable.
I want to say you have got to get on that phone and be authentic. I am not a fan of the script. I can't tell you how many times I call people. Like I was on the phone with Verizon last week because we've been having so much cell trouble, and I was out of town, and so I called Verizon to try to figure out what was going on, and then part of their script is, how's your day going? Did you have a good weekend and things like that? And I'm irritated with them because I don't have time for that. So I'm not a big fan of the script. You got to be really speaking from your heart, just like you do in sales.
You got to come in and address their issue right away, because again, in 5 seconds, they're deciding whether or not they want to stay on the call with you. And exactly, you're right. If somebody calls me and said, how's your day going? I know you're a salesperson. And you know what? I don't want to talk to you. I'm going to hang up. I'm just going to flat out hang up on you. And so I'm always just going to come in and I'm going to say something very quickly. I'm going to make a statement very quickly that's relevant to them, that's relevant to their industry, something of that nature. But I'm going to do it fast because I've got to engage them quickly.
Yeah. And Thomas is saying, be ready to overcome objections, especially if you're an unknown number to your prospects. However, objections aren't a no. You're absolutely right. I mean, objections are a beautiful thing. They're telling you where the pain point is. They're telling you what they don't understand about why they should give you something as precious as their time. So, part of, I think, of cold calling is shifting your mindset around it. It's not about closing a deal. It's not about even getting an appointment. It's what Mark said. It's about starting that relationship, and then adding what Thomas says here is about figuring out, why wouldn't they talk to you? Why wouldn't they return the call? Why wouldn't they give you the time of day? Well, that's all great intel to be more effective in the sales process.
Yeah, because it's just about moving the ball forward. Again, so many people, they put so much pressure on themselves that first phone call is going to generate a sale. It's not. Just relax. Now, here's the key thing. Got to understand. The phone call, if they answer the phone, that's a different type of conversation than the voicemail. You have to be prepared for both.
Yeah.
So many times what happens is we get so ingrained that I know it's going to go to voicemail, that somebody actually answers the phone, and then you go, oh no, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Right? All right. Or vice versa. So you got to be prepared for both. The key thing is this: both of them have to be natural sounding. Again, I said up front, what makes the telephone work? It's because of AI, because people are so I hate that. And if you can come across as a human being, as a normal individual, it's amazing how people will engage. Natalie is jumping in, and the whole thing that she says, great to let them know that you're sending an email so that they know to look for it. Exactly. You're connecting the voice message with the email. And that's absolutely key, because again, the chance of them returning a phone call, Zero. Yeah, I just said it. Zero. And the chance of them returning that first email, slim to none, but maybe it's 1 or 2%. So, hey, guess what? You're going to connect them, and then you're going to have to do, as Mayor is an expert at, follow up. You're going to have to do that again with a different type of message, different value prop, somewhere down the road, either a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, whatever your cadence is. But you've got to be following up.
Yeah, I find that Natalie, I love that you pointed out that we both sent an email note looking for. So think about this. Let's assume that my fear of the phone call stops me and I just send an email. Mark makes a phone call and then he sends an email. Whose email do you think is going to get responded to? If you guessed Mark, you guessed right. Why? Because there's recognition. See, if Mark didn't make the phone call, he folds into the same bucket of a bunch of emails that there's no recognition. Watch your own emotional state when you look at emails. If you recognize something, someone, the likelihood that you will respond to that email is greater, even if all they did is like, oh, Meredith left me a voicemail. I can't tell you the effectiveness. I had this happen Thursday too. I had called another association, left a message, and I got a response back to my email. Now, I don't think I would have gotten a response back to my email had I not, had I not done that. And Bill Snow, you are dead on. The more you do it, the more you call, the better you get. So I think I love that you said that, because I think that's another important thing. If you screw up the first couple of phone calls, okay, you're going to do that. I mean, you're just like, if you freeze, you say something stupid, you know what? You may do that because you're nervous. You don't like it. You got to get comfortable with it. So Bill, you're dead on. Like, the goal isn't to be the best cold caller in the next 30 days. The goal is to be the next best cold caller in the next year.
You know, I'm going to suggest let's get rid of the word cold, in fact. Yeah, now, and we know what we're talking about here, because It's not like you're just random calling people, but it's cold because you don't have a relationship. My whole feeling is this, of course. If I know I can help someone, I have an obligation to reach out to them. So that defines why I'm calling, because, hey, wow, I know I can help this company. I know I can help this person. So I have an obligation to reach out to them. Now, if you are angst about making phone calls, here's what you do. The first phone call you make, call an existing customer. Call an existing customer, because you know what? They're going to be glad you called. They're going to be glad to hear from you, and they're going to prop you up, and they're going to say, this is great. Then you start by making a few calls to your warmer leads. These might be individuals that are already in your pipeline. In other words, you're working your way into it. But here's the whole thing. You have got to make sure that you do set up time that you are prospecting those cold, can we say chilly? Can we say those people I know I can help, but I haven't connected with them yet. Those type of people. And if you still need help, what you do is you take a piece of paper and you write down all of the things that you've been able to help your customers with in the past. Just write it down on a piece. And you keep that right in front of you. You keep that, and you go, you know what? I really do make a difference. I really do impact customers I get to work with. That the idea is to have you feeling in a better state, because I'll tell you what, you're going to make calls and a lot of them are not going to go anywhere, and that's fine, but you stay in the game. I'm going to challenge anybody. Give me 3 hours. You take 3 hours. I take 3 hours. In 3 hours, you send out all the emails you want. I'll be on the phone for 3 hours and we'll compare notes at the end. I will guarantee it. I'm going to be having a couple of conversations. You won't. Whoa.
Yeah. I love what Princess is asking here. The great distinction that I hear MEP saying is that you're making all your own calls. I've heard of business managers or VAs making calls to associations on behalf of the speakers they represent, or some salespeople have appointment setters. Great idea. You better spend a lot of time training these people, because I don't know if do you get those people who reach out to you about putting people on your podcast, or people who reach out to you trying to get an appointment, and they're clearly have no vested interest or understanding in who they're representing or who they're trying to sell to. So this is a great idea. It's, double your efforts. I mean, by all means do that, but make sure those people are well trained.
Boy, I see this a lot in the software arena. You have SDRs, and all they are is appointment setting people. And the challenge is that model is getting so old, so worn out. But to go back to Meredith's comment, they better be well trained and well proficient in understanding what's the value prop. Because again, if all they're doing is setting appointments, it's just not going to happen. That model is broken, and that will be replaced by a bot very quickly. I've got a company that's pitching me right now. They want me to do some work for them in that model, and I go, that's just. Can I just say that's slimy?
Yeah.
I don't like that approach. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about being genuine with
Yeah.
people. When you're genuine with people, it's amazing what happens.
I also think that you have to realize that authenticity right now, in fact, it'd be a great podcast. Authenticity is a competitive advantage right now because there's so much missing. Everybody's looking for ways to automate. And if you follow the stock market at all, it's really interesting that with AI, there hasn't been a way to really monetize it yet. It's been out there and it was expected to be so disruptive to the marketplace, but there hasn't been a way to really monetize it yet. And these companies are really kind of backed up against the wall that they've had so much investment that now it's time to create return. And it's just not getting there. So I think that's all the more proof that this whole idea of giving the human touch to the sales piece will be more and more important. Bill Snow, great advice. Commit 1 hour a day to phone calls and see your pipeline come alive.
Hey, I know we're burning time
Yeah.
and we've got to get to the book here in a second, but I'm going to pick up on that, Bill. I absolutely believe in that because you got to know your number. Like for me, I have 5 conversations a day. I know if I have 5 conversations a day, it works. Hey, Thomas, let's address this question. B2B or B2C? Do we approach it differently? Yes, slightly different. But again, both are still emotional. Both require people to answer the phones. B2C may be different times of the day, maybe different days of the week, maybe different things. But again, you still have to realize that both work. Do they work? Does one work better than the other? No. You know what? I've seen enough statistics that say B2B and B2C calling really have just about the exact same statistics. But I'll tell you what it comes down to, your personality. And that's why creative calls, because you're creating a relationship. Spencer, love that comment from you.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's call them creative calls. I think that's a great suggestion.
Yes. I love it. I love that. Hey, are you ready for the book?
I am.
The book, Pick Up the Phone and Sell by Alex Goldfond. Hey, it's been out a couple years, but I'll tell you what, I've got it on my bookshelf over here, and it's an excellent book. Pick up the phone and sell.
Just pick up that phone and sell. If you have questions about cold calling, if you need more information, this is a great book really to get you started, get you over the hump.
Yeah.
All right, Mark.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we've got a ton of stuff in the Sales Logic Mastermind.
Yeah, we do.
The brain, you can literally role play telephone calls in the brain. So check out and join the Sales Logic Mastermind. Lightning round. Top 10 best pieces of sales advice you have ever been given.
Number 1 is that don't look for perfection, look for progress.
2, hang out with people who are successful salespeople.
Number 3, consistency. Don't worry about immediate results. Worry about doing the behaviors day in and day out.
B, have a very strong routine. Picking up on yours, have a very strong routine. Be blocking your time to make the activities happen.
Number 5, build your network. If you build your network, you will never cold call.
Number 6, make sure that you practice the art of follow-up.
Number 7, I would say work on invest in building referral networks.
Oh, man, you stole that one from me. I was going to use that one.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Hey, audience, if you don't realize this, we make these up literally on the fly. So anyway, is this number 8?
Sure.
Number 8. See how well we work here. It's all about remaining consistent and always be a student of learning. Always make sure that you're learning something from your customers or from the industry that you can turn around and use again.
Never be static in your sales process. Never assume that what worked in December of 2024 will work in March of 2025.
And number 10, don't pass blame. Don't blame others for your problems. Own it. You have the ability to control your own success. With that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. Something we've said has earned you a single dollar. consider telling a friend about our show because it's how we grow when you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meredith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all of this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. We'll see you all right back here next week for another episode of Sales Logic. Wow, how lucky are we? The infamous Tim Fitzpatrick joined us this week. All right. We'll see you right back here next week, 8 a.m. Eastern, for another episode of Sales Logic. And Mark, when is the Sales Logic Expert Exchange?
Hey, the Sales Logic Expert Exchange happens the 4th Monday of each month. So depending on when you're listening, if you're catching this live, we'll put the link below. And you can join us because this coming Monday, we have Larry Levine. Next week, on the 4th Monday of the month, we are going to have Lauren Bailey. We've got experts lined up. It's a great way for you to get expert advice very quickly. Meredith and I do an interview with them. It's absolutely fantastic. Join us.
All right. We'll see you right back here next week.